They had me seated next to the coat rack, literally. At my mom's vow renewal, an elegant, high-end restaurant decked out in fairy lights and overpriced floral arrangements. I found my name on the very last table, printed in cursive like it somehow softened the slap. Table 12, the overflow table, the one reserved for extended relatives who didn't quite make the inner circle. I looked around. Diane, my mother, was front and center with Martin, her new husband. Emily, Martin's daughter and the unofficial golden child, sat at the head table, sipping champagne like she was hosting the Oscars. Her tech startup had just got an investment or something. There was applause, a toast, a lot of fake laughter. I hadn't even sat down yet. I double-checked the seating chart. Maybe I'd misread it. Maybe Jake, my name, was a typo. Nope. Right there, wedged between Great Aunt Harriet and some guy named Ross. That's when Martin walked by, all cologne and charisma. He glanced at me, smiled like a politician, and said, "We had to prioritize, Jake. Prioritize." That word hit harder than I expected. Not because it was rude, it wasn't. It was factual, plain, and worse, practiced. I looked at Diane. She was busy laughing at something Emily said, probably about venture capital or crypto. She didn't even notice me standing there. That was it. I didn't make a scene. No raised voice, no dramatic exit, just a quiet, calm decision. I straightened my blazer, gave Martin a smile as fake as the florals, and said, "Thanks for making it so easy." Then I walked out, past the ice sculpture, past the valet, right out of their curated little celebration of hierarchy. Not one person followed me. And somehow, that was the part that hurt the least. You'd think this all started with that stupid table, but it didn't. It started way before Martin ever entered the picture. Before Emily was gifted her first iPad, while I was still saving up for my second-hand laptop. Before the renovations, the red wine evenings, there were just so proud conversations I never got to hear. It started with choices, mine specifically. When I told my mom I wanted to be a nurse, she paused, not shocked, just disappointed. She had that tight-lipped smile she used whenever something embarrassed her in public. "You're smart, Jake," she said. "You could be a doctor, a surgeon even. Why settle?" I told her I didn't see it as settling. I wanted to help people. She sighed, as if I'd said I wanted to live in a treehouse and become a full-time bird watcher. "Helping people doesn't pay the bills," she muttered. Not well, anyway. That was the first of many little gut punches disguised as advice. She never asked about my exams, never came to my white coat ceremony. But when Emily launched her first app, a glorified task manager with emojis, Diane couldn't shut up about it. Every family dinner turned into a TED Talk recap. Emily pitched to 3 investors this week. Emily's moving to the city. Emily's changing the game. Me? I was working nights. No mention of the patients I sat with through panic attacks, the families I reassured when doctors didn't have time, the hours I spent on my feet in understaffed wards during flu season. But I still showed up. When Diane's blood pressure spiked, I was the one who noticed. When she had her gallbladder out, I was the one checking her meds, handling her insurance calls, sitting through discharge summaries. She'd joke, "You're not a real doctor, but I guess you'll do." And every time I'd laugh, tight-lipped, just like her. I kept telling myself, she's still my mom. That has to count for something. Turns out it didn't. Because the vow renewal wasn't a mistake. It was a mirror, showing me exactly where I stood. At the end of the table. If I was lucky, leaving that restaurant should have broken me. A few years ago it would have. Back then, I'd lie awake wondering if I was too sensitive, too dramatic, too less. I'd turn conversations over in my head like worry beads, dissecting every word my mother didn't say. But that night, I didn't feel rage, or heartbreak, or even the need to cry in the car like some indie movie protagonist. I felt done. And that's a dangerous kind of peace. The kind that settles in after a long war you didn't even know you were fighting. I sat in my car for a while, The lot was nearly empty, except for a valet texting by the curb. I thought about turning my phone back on. Maybe someone had noticed I was gone. Maybe Diane, or Emily, or Martin, with his silver tongue and emotional constipation. Nothing. I scrolled through my messages, group chats buzzing about nonsense, a hospital shift swap request, one promotional email about 10% off scrubs, no missed calls, no texts from anyone inside that restaurant. They didn't notice. Or worse, they did, and just didn't care enough to reach out. The silence was louder than anything they could have said. I went home, changed into sweatpants, and ordered Thai food. Extra spicy, extra selfish. I watched reruns of a cooking show I didn't even like just because it was mine, and for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel like I had to earn space in my own evening. The next day, it started. A message from Uncle Sam, "Hey, you good? Saw you left early last night. Left it on red." Then one from Ruby, "Jake. What happened at dinner? Did someone say something?" Still quiet. Then came the one I'd been waiting for. "Diane, we need to talk. No, sorry. No, I didn't mean to hurt you. Just a demand. Just. We need." As if I owed her a debrief on why being pushed to the emotional basement wasn't exactly delightful. I didn't reply. A few days passed. I picked up more shifts, grabbed coffee with coworkers, walked by the river with my headphones on and didn't check my phone once. And you know what? It felt amazing. There was no tightness in my chest, no second-guessing every decision, no mental spreadsheet of favors I'd done for a family who only remembered me when they needed prescriptions explained. Then Uncle Sam called again. This time he sounded more serious. "She's in the hospital," he said. I paused. "Diane?" "Yeah. Blood pressure complications. They didn't catch it in time. Nothing catastrophic, but she needs care now. Like, real care." He didn't say it, but I heard the implication loud and clear. She needs you. That used to be enough to get me sprinting across town. I'd pack a weekend bag, show up with a clipboard and my stethoscope, ready to be the nurse no one respected until they were gasping for help. But this time, I said, "Thanks for the update," and hung up. 2 hours later, Martin called. I didn't pick up. Then Emily tried. Voicemail, "Jake, I know things were tense, but this is bigger than that now. Mom's sick." Oh, now she's mom again. Amazing how illness rewrites the cast list. Ruby tried next. "Jake, she's asking about you." I doubted it. Diane never asked about me unless she needed something. A ride to a specialist. Help interpreting blood work. A reminder that Emily wasn't the only one who existed. Then the kicker. A text from Martin, "Family is about showing up when it matters. Don't let this be the moment you regret." Funny. I didn't see Martin or Emily showing up when it mattered all those times I was pouring Diane's meds into a plastic organizer, reminding her which ones to take with food. I remembered the night she was recovering from her last surgery. I'd taken off work to help. Emily had sent flowers. Martin had sent a thumbs-up emoji in the group chat. I was the one staying up till 2 a.m. making sure she didn't pass out in the bathroom. But yeah, I'm the one who might regret not showing up. Diane stayed in the hospital for 4 days. I didn't visit, didn't call. Apparently they figured it out. Or maybe they didn't. All I know is that a week later she was discharged. But now she needed ongoing care, full-time, daily monitoring, dietary adjustments, medication scheduling, blood pressure checks, all the things I used to do for free. And surprise, they couldn't afford it. Martin tried one more time, showed up at the clinic. "I think we should put the past behind us," he said, all polished charm and empty sincerity. I sipped my coffee. Interesting. Because last week I was some distant cousin, remember? He frowned. "That's not fair." "No," I said, standing, but neither was the seating chart. After Martin's failed diplomatic mission to my workplace, things went quiet again. Not the peaceful kind, the loaded kind. I could feel the tension through every unopened message and missed call. It hung there like fog, low, lingering, and suffocating only if you let it settle too long. But I didn't. I turned off notifications, let my voicemail collect the echoes of desperation. A week passed. Then 2. Then Ruby showed up at my apartment. Hoodie, nervous energy, takeaway coffee in hand like a peace offering. "You look good," she said, as if surprised I hadn't collapsed from emotional exile. "Thanks," I replied, stepping aside. "I've discovered the radical concept of sleeping 8 hours and not feeling guilty for existing." She didn't laugh. Instead, she sighed, placed the coffee on the counter, and finally got to the point. "She's getting worse. Diane?" She nodded. "They can't afford a full-time nurse. Martin's stretched thin, and Emily is rich, successful, and suddenly nowhere to be found." She gave me a look that said, "You're not wrong, but don't make me say it. They thought you'd come around by now," she added after a beat. "That maybe you just needed space." I tilted my head. Did they, though? Or did they just assume I'd keep doing what I've always done? Show up, patch them up, leave quietly. Silence. "I'm not mad, Ruby," I said. "I'm just finished." She looked at me then, really looked, like she was seeing the version of me that never made it to family dinners, the one without the emotional leash, the one who stopped begging to matter. "I get it," she said finally. "I just thought you should know." After she left, I stared at the wall for a long time, not thinking about going back, not even thinking about Diane, just absorbing the strange feeling of freedom. And then the next attempt came. Diane herself. She called late one evening. I don't know why I answered. Maybe morbid curiosity. Maybe I wanted to hear what rock bottom sounded like in her voice. "Jake?" she said, like the word tasted unfamiliar. "Hi, Diane." She cleared her throat. "I thought maybe we could talk. In person." I raised an eyebrow. "You mean like a dinner? Just us?" "Yes." "Wow. If you'd asked me that last year, I would have been thrilled." She didn't respond. "But this isn't about dinner, is it?" Another pause. "I need your help." There it was. No apology, no reflection, just need. She didn't even deny it. "I wouldn't put it like that," she murmured. "How would you put it?" Silence. I sighed. "Fine. I'll come by." Don't ask me why I agreed. Some old reflex, maybe. Muscle memory from years of being the default caregiver, the emotional shock absorber. Or maybe I wanted to see if she'd really changed. She hadn't. When I arrived, Diane was already seated at the dining table. Takeout containers between us. The house looked the same, but it didn't feel like mine anymore. It hadn't in years. We ate in silence. Halfway through, she finally spoke. "So, how's work?" I actually laughed. "You don't care about my job, Diane. You never have." She winced. "That's not true." "Really? Because last time I checked, you called it a waste." She rubbed her temples. "Look, I didn't ask you here to argue. Then why did you ask me here?" It took her a moment. Then, with a deep breath, "I need someone to help monitor my medication. My blood pressure's unstable. The home nurse is too expensive." There it was. The bargain without a contract. "You mean you need free medical care?" I said. Her face tensed. "That's not fair." I leaned back. Neither was putting me at the cousin table. Her mouth opened, closed. She didn't have an answer, just like at the restaurant, when she looked through me like a stranger. "You don't want a son," I said quietly. "You want a safety net." "That's not true." "Then what is it?" No answer. I stood, grabbed my keys, and said the only thing left to say, "Good luck, Diane," and I left. No dramatics, no yelling, just left. Over the next few weeks, they tried again. Emily left voicemails that sounded like she was reading from a script. "We need to come together as a family. This isn't what Mom would want. You're being stubborn." Then Martin sent another message. "This one different. We hired someone. He's not great, but he's cheap. Just thought you'd want to know." I didn't reply. Weeks turned into months. The updates stopped. So did the outreach. Eventually, I learned through Ruby that they'd put Diane in a facility. the kind with peeling linoleum and overworked staff. Not because they wanted to, but because they couldn't afford anything else. I thought about visiting, once. Then I pictured her looking at me, not with remorse or understanding, but with that same tired entitlement, the expectation that I'd fix things, like always. And I knew I'd never walk through that door again. A year passed, not in a cinematic montage sort of way. No soundtrack, no dramatic life overhaul. Just days, normal ones. I worked my shifts, got promoted to lead nurse, and finally saved enough for a solo trip to Portugal. I bought a plant I kept alive, joined a book club I didn't ghost, said yes to brunch and no to anything that felt like guilt wrapped in family obligation. And in all that time, I didn't hear a word from Diane. Not until the text. It came from an unknown number. Your mother's in the hospital again. Thought you should know. No name, no context. Just the usual attempt to tug the old leash. I stared at it for a while. I didn't ask what was wrong. I didn't call Ruby to verify. I just blocked the number and went back to cleaning my apartment. A few months later, I ran into Emily. It was a weird kind of ambush. At a downtown cafe I'd just discovered. The kind with recycled wood countertops and overpriced matcha. She spotted me before I could duck out. "Jake," she said, all sunshine and surface charm. "Wow, it's been a minute." "Emily." I gave her a polite nod and went back to stirring my drink. She looked me over like she was evaluating damage. "Still doing the whole nurse thing?" I sipped my latte. "Still avoiding mom's calls?" The smile faltered. "Good. What do you want me to do?" she asked, voice suddenly flat. She made her choices. I raised an eyebrow. "She gave you everything. You couldn't even spare a visit." She blinked. "You didn't either." "Yeah," I said, "because she treated me like a backup plan." "What's your excuse?" No answer. Eventually, she mumbled something about meetings and walked out, expensive heels clicking over tile. I watched her go, not out of spite, just to see if she looked back. She didn't. A few more months passed. Then Ruby messaged again. "She's in a nursing home now. Not a good one. Emily doesn't help. Martin's disappeared." I didn't ask which one. I didn't need to. There was nothing left to fix. One night, I was in the break room at the clinic when the news came on. A business segment. Emily, in some glass-walled high-rise, giving an interview about tech investments and changing lives through innovation. I watched her smile on screen, surrounded by curated plants and soft lighting. She looked exactly like someone who had never once had to apologize. And I thought, Diane chose this. She built a future around proximity to ambition, not loyalty. She backed the golden child and buried the one who kept showing up. And now she was sitting in a rundown facility, while the daughter she'd championed dined with venture capitalists and couldn't be bothered to check in. That wasn't karma. That was just cause and effect. Eventually, the final message came. "Ruby, Diane passed last night. Just thought you should know." I sat on the edge of my bed, reading it twice, 3 times. I didn't cry. I didn't feel much at all. There was no dramatic release, no cinematic swell of emotion, just a quiet, echoing blankness, like something that had already been buried a long time ago. I typed back, "Thanks for letting me know." Then I turned off my phone, laced up my shoes, and headed to work. Because unlike Diane, I still had people to care for, real ones. And that was enough. Epilogue. What healing actually looks like. People think healing is loud. That it comes with speeches, closure, or some magical reunion moment where everything clicks. But healing for me? It looked like this. A clean apartment, fresh bed sheets, friends who laughed with me and not at me, a job I was proud of, even if no one ever clapped for it on social media. It looked like walking past old restaurants without flinching, hearing Emily's name without grinding my teeth, sleeping through the night without rerunning every what-if conversation in my head. Diane didn't leave a will, or if she did, I wasn't in it, which, ironically, felt like the most honest thing she ever did. So I moved forward, quietly, intentionally. No more proving my worth to people who only noticed it when they needed something. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't just feel like a background character in my own story. I felt like the author. Story 2. I'm writing this from a sunny balcony on my honeymoon, pina colada in hand, and a husband who's way too gleeful about how our wedding went down. I never thought I'd be the kind of person to share something like this, but honestly, it's therapeutic and a little funny in a twisted way. Throwaway account for obvious reasons. My husband, let's call him Leo, is a Reddit addict and insisted I be the one to tell the story since it's my family. So here we go. Golden child. Black sheep. I'm 27 now, but I've spent most of my life in the shadow of my sister, Marissa. She's 29. Growing up, she wasn't just the favorite. She was treated like royalty. I was more like the unpaid help. If she said I did something wrong, I got grounded. If I had proof she was lying, somehow it still became my fault. Marissa wanted chocolate cake for my birthday. We had chocolate cake. I hated chocolate. My parents said they forgot. Every year, our vacations were always to places she liked, even if it was for my birthday or graduation. It was like my presence was tolerated, not celebrated. When we hit high school, things got worse. Marissa didn't have many friends. She burned bridges faster than she could build them. Meanwhile, I had a solid friend group. She hated that. Suddenly, I wasn't just the neglected sibling. I became the enemy. She told my parents lies about my friends, that they were stealing, misbehaving, whatever. One time, I wasn't allowed to go to a sleepover because Marissa said those girls looked mean. That was enough. I was grounded for being defensive. I was 15. The only people who kept me sane were my cousins. My extended family lives nearby, and thank God they treated me like a person. At one point, I told one of my aunts I wasn't allowed to go anywhere because Marissa had no friends, and I wasn't allowed to have more than her. That little comment blew up. Apparently, the adults lit into my parents. I got grounded for lying, but after that, I got a tiny bit of freedom back. Worth it. Dating? Only if Marissa approves. My love life was basically a game of sabotage. At 16, I started dating a guy named Ryan. Sweet guy. We were pretty innocent, just hanging out, going for walks, texting late at night. My parents wanted to meet him. I begged them not to. They insisted. Big mistake. Ryan came over once. Once. That was all it took. Marissa put on a show, low-cut shirt, flirty little laugh, and full-on fake. My sister doesn't treat you right routine. He was weirded out. Told me immediately. Of course, Marissa told my parents he was the one flirting with her. Guess who they believed? I kept trying to date in secret, but it was hard. Every time I met someone, Marissa found a way to ruin it. She even accused one guy of stealing my mom's bracelet. He never came back. Eventually, I stopped trying. Marissa could bring home guys left and right. My parents rolled out the red carpet. But if I so much as texted someone, I was making bad decisions. College dreams versus golden reality. Marissa got into a mid-tier college. Nothing impressive. She didn't get a scholarship, and her grades were barely decent. But my parents? They acted like she got into Harvard, promised to pay for everything. Me? A year later, I was told they couldn't afford college for both of us. If I wanted to go, I'd need to get a job and wait until Marissa finished school. Maybe they'd help me later. Maybe. I asked about financial aid, scholarships. They brushed me off. We don't think it's wise for you to get into debt without our approval. We know you don't always make the best choices, my mom said. They didn't even know what my grades were. Spoiler, I was an A student, but no one noticed because I didn't make a big deal about it. Marissa got a B? Celebration. Me getting straight A's? That's just expected. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I just nodded and said, "Thanks for letting me know." What they didn't know was that I had already applied for a scholarship. I got it. Full ride. I posted the news on social media, thanked my supportive family in the caption, purely for optics, and made it public. They couldn't stop me without looking awful. At first, they pretended to be proud. Then Marissa started struggling in college, and the tune changed fast. Suddenly, they were worried about me. Said maybe I should delay. Your sister's smarter. If she's having trouble, imagine how hard it'll be for you. Yeah, I went anyway. Meeting Leo and finding my spine college was my escape. I made friends. I studied. I finally had freedom. That's where I met Leo. He's everything I'm not. Quick to speak up, a natural leader, and totally unafraid of confrontation. He's also the first person who looked at my family dynamic and said, "Wait, they did what? We fell in love. Fast." He helped me see how messed up things really were. And he was the first to say, "You know your sister's going to try something when we get married, right?" He wasn't wrong. When we got engaged, my parents insisted on meeting Leo. I hesitated. I knew it wouldn't go well, but I caved. Leo, being Leo, didn't just go along with it. He prepped. He bought a tiny recorder. He told me, "Let me handle them. Let's see what your family really wants." The proposal. They should have kept to themselves. Leo came back from that meeting practically glowing. They played themselves, he said, pulling out the recorder. What they proposed? Sit down for this. They said they'd pay for our wedding if Marissa could walk down the aisle first, in a wedding dress, at our wedding. Full photos, special cake, the works. Their logic? It's not right for the younger sister to get married first. At least this way, Marissa gets to experience it. Leo didn't blow up. He played dumb. I'll have to talk to her about it. But yeah, I get it. We wouldn't want her to feel left out. He didn't tell them he'd already told me everything, or that we were planning a quiet revenge. And oh boy, the plan was beautiful. After Leo shared what my parents and Marissa had said and played the recording, I sat there, completely stunned. You know when someone confirms something you always suspected, but it still punches you in the gut? That's what it felt like. I had spent years convincing myself they couldn't really see me as less than, that maybe I was just being too sensitive. But nope, there it was. Proof. They really did want my wedding to be about Marissa too. Leo leaned back with that sly grin of his and said, "So, what do you want to do?" The plan we thought about going no contact. Eloping. Just walking away from all of it. But honestly, after everything they did over the years, walking away felt incomplete. This wasn't just about one day. This was about a lifetime of being shoved aside, ignored, gaslit. So we decided to go through with it. On the surface, we played along. Leo went back to my parents and told them he was nervous that I wouldn't like it. But maybe it could work if we surprised me. You know, do it on the day when I'm already emotional and less likely to make a scene. He even told them, "She's so non-confrontational. She'll probably just cry and let it go." Oof. If they only knew how many times I did cry and let it go. Marissa was thrilled, skipping around the house like she'd just been crowned Miss Universe. She even started calling herself the first bride. Meanwhile, Leo and I got to work. How we played them. The deal was, they'd help pay for the wedding if we agreed to let Marissa have her little pre-wedding show. They wanted input on everything. Flowers, food, venue, music. And because we didn't want to cause problems, we let them think they were getting their way. But here's what we actually did: venue. We gave them the wrong address. Not far, just far enough to be believable and inconvenient. Vendors. We picked the mid-tier options for food, flowers, photography, and let my parents upgrade them. How? Leo would bring Marissa to a tasting, sigh dramatically, and say, "Too bad we can't get the fancy stuff. Don't want to abuse your generosity." That was all it took. Marissa would demand they upgrade it. My parents would agree to look good in her eyes. Worked every time. Dress drama. This one was tricky. They wanted me to wear a very conservative, satin-heavy dress that did nothing for my body type. Definitely not my style. I knew they'd send a text confirming it, so I refused in writing. That way, there was proof I never agreed to wear it. Leo pretended to go along with their plan to destroy my dress so I'd be forced to wear the one they chose. He even showed them a about the dress. Leo went over to my parents' place and showed them a small piece of fabric from my actual gown. Told them he had accidentally ruined it in an argument with me and needed to calm me down before she had a meltdown. Total lie. My dress was perfectly fine, but they bought the story without a second thought. They were so sure they had us wrapped around their fingers. They didn't even question why nothing was in writing. No emails, no texts. Leo played the part of the yes man so well. It was almost scary. At this point, the wedding was mostly paid for by them. And Marissa, she had picked her own wedding dress. Cream-colored, lace, full-length gown with rhinestones. Not subtle. She even did her own boudoir shoot beforehand. I wish I was kidding. The plan was this. She'd arrive right when everyone was seated, so no one would notice she hadn't been part of the wedding party. Walk down the aisle as if it were her big moment. A decoy bride. The chaos would only unfold once I showed up. What they didn't count on was the private security we hired. Day of the wedding, we had a friend, a no-nonsense ex-Marine, stand at the entrance with a guest list. His only job? Do not let Marissa in once the ceremony starts. We kept him low profile until the last second. To everyone else, he looked like a friend helping with check-in. The ceremony start time was carefully chosen. We knew my parents had told Marissa to arrive just in time, their words. So once they were seated and everyone else was inside, we had our guy step out front. Sure enough, Marissa pulled up in her full wedding getup. Makeup done, hair curled, bouquet in hand, and got blocked. There's already a bride inside. That's what the security guy told her. She flipped. Full meltdown. Screaming, crying, cussing. My dad came outside to yell. Then my mom. Security stood his ground. Inside, we waited until the exact moment my dad gave the cue for the processional. That's when I walked in, smiling, in my untouched dress. On the arm of Leo's dad, we'd asked him to stand in just in case my father bailed. The guests were confused. My dad was gone. My mom was missing. Some whispered. Others stared at the doors expecting Marissa. But I walked in. The lie I let slip to sell the drama and keep the chaos outside, I said softly, just loud enough for the front row to hear. My dad told me it wasn't supposed to be me. That rumor spread like wildfire. Gasps, side eyes, people texting under the table. Leo stood at the altar grinning like a man who'd just won the Super Bowl. We got married. With laughter, with clapping, with full hearts. No drama inside the venue, just warmth. Outside, though, it was a mess. The fallout people came and went during the reception. Whispers got louder. Someone even showed us a video of Marissa, still in her dress, crying on the ground in the parking lot, while my parents argued with guests and tried to explain that Leo tricked them. Their story was wild. They said Leo agreed to let Marissa walk first, but of course, they had no proof. No texts, no emails, just vibes. Leo, he gaslit them to hell and back. I would never do that to my wife. That's disgusting. What kind of people do that? He even threatened to sue them for harassment when they kept calling during the honeymoon. He screen capped the missed calls, Marissa's unhinged message where she accused him of cheating on me with her and dumped everything into the family group chat with a caption that read, "We're trying to enjoy our honeymoon. Please respect our marriage and stop. Thanks, Mike." Mike. So, where are we now? My parents haven't spoken to me since. Marissa tried once. A rambling, unhinged email about betrayal, sisterhood, and how Leo was a snake who turned her dreams into ashes. Leo wanted to frame it and hang it over the bed. I vetoed that. Our wedding photos turned out amazing. I got everything I wanted. The dress, the flowers, the food, the moment. And I didn't pay a cent for any of it. They wanted to make me invisible on my own day. Instead, I became the only thing anyone remembers. Final thoughts people ask me. Do you feel guilty? No. Not even a little. They treated me like I didn't matter my whole life. I didn't scream. I didn't fight. I didn't try to change their minds anymore. I just showed them who I became without their help. The funny thing is, I never wanted revenge. I just wanted peace. But sometimes peace comes after you burn down the lies people built around you and let them sit in the ashes. Thanks for reading. Story 3, I don't even know where to begin. I guess you could say this started years ago, back when I still believed in things like unconditional love, shared dreams, and building a future with someone who saw you the same way you saw them. My name's Marcus. I'm 34. I used to be married. Her name was Layla. We were together for 4 years, married for 3 of them. And up until everything fell apart, I honestly thought we were solid. Not perfect, but who is? We lived just outside Manchester in a modest townhouse. Our weekends were quiet, takeout, Netflix, the occasional dinner party. We had a plan, kids, travel, maybe adopt a dog after the first baby, that kind of thing. We used to talk about names, nursery colors, and the tiny little details like what kind of stroller we'd get. Layla was especially into all of that. She'd have Pinterest boards filled with toddler shoes and nursery mood boards. It was our thing. It made us feel like we were building something bigger than ourselves. But life doesn't always go according to plan. We'd been trying to have kids for about 8 months when things started feeling off. Nothing dramatic at first, but we weren't getting pregnant, and the tension slowly crept in, unspoken but ever present. Eventually, we got tested. I'll never forget the look on her face when the doctor gave us the news. Turns out, the issue was with me. Low count, low motility. Pretty much a low shot at natural conception altogether. I remember feeling like someone had knocked the air out of me. Like I was less of a man somehow, which I know now is ridiculous. But back then, it hit hard. I shut down emotionally, went quiet for weeks. Therapy helped, but I still carried this deep sense of failure. Layla, for her part, told me she was okay with it. Said she didn't care if we couldn't have kids biologically, that we could still be happy. Just the two of us. I believed her. I wanted to believe her, but almost immediately, the way she treated me started to shift. Slowly, subtly. First, she stopped talking about baby names. No more browsing nursery furniture. Then came the comments, jokes about my weight, my job, how I never did anything around the house. The same woman who used to curl up next to me and talk about our future now barely looked at me. I'd ask her if something was wrong, and she'd brush me off like I was imagining it. I wasn't imagining anything. We became roommates, functional, distant, quiet. Every time I tried to bring up alternatives, adoption, IVF, surrogacy, she'd shut it down with a vague, "I'm just not ready to talk about that." And then came the trip. She told me she was going on a girls' trip to New York, just her and 2 of her best friends from uni. Honestly, I didn't think much of it. Layla had done trips like that before, and I trusted her. Maybe I was naive, but I even helped her pack and drove her to the airport. She kissed me goodbye and thanked me for being supportive. Her exact words, "I don't know what I'd do without you." She looked me in the eyes when she said it. That night, I stayed up waiting for her landed safely text. Nothing. I called. Straight to voicemail. Maybe her phone died, I told myself. Maybe she just passed out from the flight. By morning, nothing had changed. I called again and again. Texts, emails, radio silence. That's when the knot in my stomach started forming. I called her sister, thinking maybe she'd heard something. Nothing. I called her friends, the ones she was supposedly with. Wait, what trip? That's when the panic hit full force. Turns out none of them had even seen her. She hadn't gone to New York. Hell, she hadn't even left the country. She lied. She'd packed a suitcase, kissed me goodbye, and disappeared. I spent that entire day calling every number I could think of, refreshing her social media, tracking flight records, anything to make sense of it. But the truth was clear. She'd left me. Just left. No note. No explanation. no warning. And the worst part, a part of me already knew she wasn't coming back. For days, I was a ghost. I barely ate, barely slept. I just kept staring at the door, expecting her to walk through it, say something, anything. I called her phone obsessively, left voicemails I'll probably never forgive myself for. Her family didn't know where she was either. Her mom cried when I showed up asking for help. She made me food and let me talk endlessly about things that didn't make sense. The look in her eyes, pity, confusion, heartbreak, told me she was as blindsided as I was. The weeks turned into months. I started therapy again because I had to. I was falling apart. I wasn't just dealing with the pain of losing a partner. I was trying to process the sheer disrespect of being ghosted by the one person I trusted most. The guilt ate at me. What did I miss? What could I have done differently? Should I have noticed the signs? I replayed everything in my head 1,000 times. Her disengagement, the weird smiles, that coldness in her voice when I'd bring up family stuff, the trip, the goodbye, but all the soul searching in the world didn't bring her back. All it did was reveal a brutal truth I didn't want to accept. She was done long before I knew it. She'd been planning this, and I, idiot that I was still setting reminders to pick her up from the airport. It took nearly a year for the fog to lift, for me to stop checking my phone like a puppy, to stop lying to people about how my marriage was doing. I started working out again, got promoted at work, even picked up old hobbies, cooking, hiking, photography, things I had let go of trying to be the perfect husband. And for the first time in a long time, I was starting to feel like myself again. Then one Saturday morning, someone knocked on my door. And there she was, Layla, standing there, holding a baby. I froze. There she was, Layla. Same face, same voice, but not the same woman, and definitely not the same life. She looked tired, like life had knocked her around a bit. Her hair was messier than I remembered. Eyes had bags, and she had a baby in her arms. My first thought? No, 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 no. This isn't happening. She gave me this soft little smile, like she expected me to smile back. Like I'd been waiting for this moment, ready to throw my arms around her and say, "Welcome home." I didn't. I didn't say a damn word. Instead, I leaned against the door frame and stared. My body went cold. My brain blanked. And after a long beat, she finally asked, "Can I come in?" I don't know where I found the strength, but I managed to keep my voice level. "No. If you have something to say, say it here." She blinked, like she couldn't process that I wasn't rolling out the red carpet. She looked around, probably hoping none of the neighbors were watching, then adjusted the baby in her arms and said, I needed to explain everything. Please." I didn't say anything. I wasn't ready to make it easy for her. So she started talking, said she made a mistake, said she left because she wanted something I couldn't give her, a family, and she'd found someone who could, some guy she met online. Apparently, he said all the right things and promised her the life she thought she wanted. And so, she left. Just like that. Marcus, I was scared. I didn't know how to tell you. I knew it would break your heart, and I couldn't handle watching you hurt because of me. I didn't interrupt her. I just listened. She said the guy she left me for bailed when she got pregnant. Classic. Disappeared the moment things got real. No support, no calls, nothing. So she had the baby alone. And now, almost 2 years later, she'd decided she wanted to come home. Her words, not mine. She said she'd been thinking about me a lot, that she missed what we had, that she realized I was the only person who ever truly loved her for who she was, and that she wanted us back, me, her, and the baby as a family. I swear to you, she looked at me like she thought I was going to cry and say yes. Instead, I asked the one question that had haunted me since the day she vanished. "Why didn't you just tell me the truth?" She looked down. Said she didn't think I'd understand. Said she was confused, overwhelmed, ashamed. Gave me every excuse in the book, all dressed up like regret. But you know what? None of it hit. I'd spent too many nights crying alone, wondering where she was. Too many therapy sessions asking myself if I was broken. Too much time rebuilding my life from the ground up. And now she thought she could just walk back into it? I looked at her, really looked at her, and I realized something. She didn't come back because she missed me. She came back because life didn't work out the way she planned. She came back because the guy she left me for ditched her, and now she needed someone to step up. And in her mind, I was still that guy, the reliable one, the fixer, the guy who'd take the hit and smile anyway. Not anymore. You left me, I said quietly. You lied to my face, walked out, and disappeared. You ghosted me like I was nothing. And now you're standing here with someone else's child, expecting what? That I'll raise him with you? She started crying then. Real tears. Said she knew she messed up. Said she'd do anything to make things right. I'm not here to replace his father, I told her. And I'm not the man you used to know. She got defensive then. Said I was being cruel. That I had always wanted a family. And now one was right in front of me. I almost laughed. Yeah, I said. But not like this. Not with lies. Not after what you did. Her tone changed after that. The sweetness cracked, and the bitterness leaked out. You're selfish, she snapped. I could have taken everything when I left, but I didn't. I could have divorced you and ruined you. I just shook my head. And now you think you should be rewarded for that? It's strange hearing someone you used to love say things that make you feel like you never knew them at all. At one point, she said, "You'll regret this. No one else will love you the way I did." That was probably the truest thing she said, because no one else will love me like that. And thank God for it. I didn't yell. I didn't slam the door. I just stepped back, looked her in the eyes, and said, "You made your choice. Now live with it." Then I closed the door. She stood there for a while, knocking, crying, begging. I didn't open it. I couldn't, because once I let her back in, even for a second, it would undo everything I'd rebuilt. Eventually, the knocking stopped. I peeked through the curtain. She was gone. I sat down on my couch, heart pounding, but my mind, it was clear. It wasn't relief exactly, more like resolution. Like I'd finally turned the last page on a book I kept rereading, hoping the ending would change. It never did. It never would. And now, I finally didn't need it to. After she left that morning with her baby, her tears, and her mess, I just sat in silence. I didn't feel victorious. Not really. I felt settled. Like something inside me had finally clicked into place. Like I wasn't waiting anymore. Not for answers. Not for closure. Not for her. And that was a new feeling. A good one. The rest of the day went by in this weird haze. I cleaned the kitchen even though it wasn't dirty. Reorganized my bookshelf. Took a walk. Didn't bring my phone. Just tried to let the air hit my skin. Tried to feel present again. But even with all that, there was still a strange hum in the background. Like the echo of her voice hadn't fully faded yet. A few days later, I got a text from her mom. "I'm sorry," it read. "I didn't know she was planning that. If you need anything, I'm still here." I didn't reply. Not because I was angry at her mom. Actually, her mom had always been kind to me. Real kind. She cooked for me during the worst of it, sat with me when I couldn't talk. But this wasn't about her. This wasn't about anyone except me, finally choosing peace. I let the message sit there unread. I had nothing left to say. Over the next couple weeks, I started hearing things. Not directly from Layla, thank God, but from mutuals, old acquaintances, even my barber, of all people. Apparently, she was back living with her parents. Things weren't going smoothly. The guy she left me for had completely disappeared, hadn't even signed the birth certificate. No support, no visitation, nothing. She was broke, jobless, struggling. Some people expected me to care. A few even tried the guilt angle. "She's still the same person you married," one said. No, she wasn't. That person died the day she lied to me and walked out of my life. Another one said, "The baby didn't ask for this. Don't punish him." I'm not. But let's be real. That child's life isn't my responsibility. I didn't make him. I didn't choose this. I didn't even get the chance to say no before she made her choices. So no, I wasn't stepping in to be anyone's plan B. Her dad even called once. That one caught me off guard. He was polite, quiet, almost embarrassed. He danced around the issue for a bit, talked about the weather, asked about my job, then finally said it. "They're struggling, Marcus. Anything you could do, we'd be grateful." I don't know if he expected me to pull out my wallet or open my door, but either way, I told him the truth. "Look," I said, "I don't wish her harm. I hope she finds her footing. But I'm not the safety net." He paused, then said, "I understand." And that was that. After that, the call stopped. The messages trickled out. Even the whispers from mutual friends faded. Funny how silence, once so painful, now felt like peace. I threw myself into the things that grounded me. Work was steady. I'd finally moved up to a senior role, and I liked being the guy people came to when things went sideways. I joined a hiking group, not a social thing, just folks who liked quiet trails and early mornings. Started learning how to bake, too. My sourdoughs still hit or miss, but it makes the house smell amazing. Most nights, I sat on the porch with tea and watched the sun dip behind the rooftops. That used to be our spot, mine and hers. But now, it was mine again. Just mine. Some nights I'd catch myself thinking about the baby. Not in a yearning way. More like, wondering what he looked like. Wondering if she was being a good mom. But I never felt regret. Never once thought, maybe I should have said yes, because that door didn't just close, it locked. And I swallowed the key. What really got me through, though, was the people who stayed. My mate Joel, who dragged me to the gym when I didn't want to go. My sister, who called every week just to talk about books and movies and stuff that didn't feel heavy. Even my neighbor Greg, he's 67, and always brings me fresh tomatoes from his garden, told me, "You're doing better. I can see it in your eyes." And I was. Better. Not healed overnight. Not magically happy, but grounded. Clear. Whole. It's weird how you don't realize how much someone dimmed your light until they're gone, and you can finally breathe again. And I wasn't bitter, either. I didn't spend my days plotting revenge or wishing her harm. That kind of energy poisons you from the inside. I didn't want revenge. I wanted release. And I had it now. I had space in my life. Not for her, but maybe, eventually, for something new. Something healthy. Someone who doesn't see me as a backup plan or a utility. But for now, I was just enjoying being okay. And that was enough. Time has a way of softening things. Not erasing, not excusing, just softening. Like how the sting of a splinter fades after it's pulled out. The skin might scar, but the pain dulls. Eventually, you forget it was ever there, until you touch the spot and remember. That's how I felt about her now. Layla. She wasn't a wound anymore, just a scar. It's been over a year since that day she showed up at my door with a baby in her arms, asking me to start over. And I haven't seen her since. Not in person, anyway. I've heard things. People still talk, especially in small towns. She's bounced around a bit, stayed with a cousin, then an old friend, now apparently renting a room above someone's garage on the other side of town. The guy she left me for? Gone like smoke. Not even a memory at this point. She's working odd jobs, trying to stay afloat. I don't say that with spite. Just the facts. Life's hard when you burn every bridge and realize there's no way back. A few people still try to drop her name around me. Testing the waters, I guess. Seeing if I'll bite. I don't. Not out of anger. Just, I'm done. And when I say done, I mean in the deepest sense of the word. That chapter of my life is closed, sealed, filed away in a part of me that no longer needs answers or apologies. I think the real shift happened the day I finally went through the last box she left behind. It had been sitting in my closet for almost 2 years. Just a cardboard thing with her name scribbled on the side. I kept telling myself I'd toss it one day, but I didn't. Not until I was ready. That day came in spring. It was warm out. I had the windows open. Birds were chirping in the yard. I made a cup of coffee, sat down on the floor, and pulled the box in front of me. Inside, a few old sweaters, a photo album from a trip we never finished, a notebook with half a dozen baby name ideas written on the first page. I didn't cry. I didn't get angry. I just sat with it. Then I took the whole box outside and burned it in the fire pit. Not as a revenge thing, not to be dramatic, just to let go. And watching the smoke curl up into the sky, I felt something lift, something deep, something final. I was free. It was around that time I started to feel like I had room for something new in my life, not to replace anything, but to build something better. I didn't rush, didn't hop on dating apps or force anything. I just lived. I went to dinners when friends invited me, said yes to things I used to say no to, kept showing up for myself in small ways, every single day. Then I met someone. Her name's Devin. We met at the farmer's market. She was arguing with a vendor about whether a tomato is technically a fruit or a vegetable. I made a stupid joke about ketchup being fruit juice, and she laughed way too hard. That was the start. She's kind, steady, real, doesn't play games, doesn't keep score. We talk about everything. No walking on eggshells. No second guessing whether the smile she gives me is real or a setup for something worse. She knows the story about Layla. Not all the ugly details, but the shape of it. I told her what mattered, that I loved someone who left without a word. And when she came back, I had to choose myself. Devin didn't flinch, didn't pity me, just held my hand and said, "I'm glad you did." Some nights when we're sitting on the back porch and the light turns golden, I think about how far I've come. And I'm not talking about big accomplishments or money or status. I'm talking about peace. The quiet kind. The kind that sits in your chest and doesn't need to be explained. The kind that says, I know who I am. I know what I've survived. And I don't need anyone's permission to move forward. One of Layla's old friends messaged me not long ago, out of nowhere. Said she was going through a tough time and just needed someone to talk to. I didn't respond. Not because I'm cruel, just because that's not my place anymore. I've learned that not everything broken needs to be fixed. Some things need to stay broken so they can teach you something. And Layla taught me this. Loyalty without respect is a prison. Love without honesty is a trick. And giving someone endless chances doesn't make you strong, it makes you disappear. I don't disappear anymore. I show up for myself now, every day, in small ways, in quiet ways. And maybe that's what healing really looks like. Not loud declarations or revenge fantasies, but sitting with yourself on a random Thursday night, sipping tea, listening to the rain tap the windows, and feeling okay. More than okay, whole. So yeah, my wife left me, had another man's baby, and came back like nothing happened. And I told her no, and that was the best decision I've ever made. That's the story. Not glamorous, not wild, just real. Thanks for reading. And if you're out there wondering whether you're allowed to choose yourself after being left behind, you are. Every time. Always.